Thank you, Grant, and thanks very much for welcoming me here today and for the lovely lunch. I have to say I rather like the look of the jumbo tennis. I may have more chance of hitting the ball with a racket that size. Sorry, surprisingly not. Okay, well, perhaps I better stick to normal tennis or badminton. So can I just go? Okay. I wanted to just sort of mention, of course, today to you that Grow Wellington is, of course, the economic development agency for the Wellington region. But as you may know, there are changes afoot. We will be amalgamating with Positively Wellington Tourism and also Positively Wellington Venues to become one super economic development agency. So I'm not quite sure if the timing is fabulous today, considering there will be changes coming up. But at the moment, we are just running business as usual. So I'll just give you a bit of an overview about the type of work that I do in talent attraction and talent management for the region. So I'm not sure how many of you have had dealings with Grow Wellington, but I thought I'd just do a quick overview of the organisation as it stands today. So we've got three main teams. We've got the business growth team, who work with businesses within the region of a certain size to help support, build capability with a view to export. So that's the business growth team. They also have managers in that team who deal with research and development on behalf of Callaghan Innovation. I'm going to leave the middle team because that's my favourite team, that's my team, and move on to the innovation and workforce team. That's pretty self-explanatory. They're working on boosting innovation in the region and also in workforce planning for our region, which is very important. Now, the middle team there is the business attraction team, and that's where I sit. The team is relatively new, actually, compared to the rest of Grow Wellington. It was established less than 2 years ago. Now, we're charged with attracting business, investment, screen projects, education, investors, as well as talent into the region. So quite a wide remit, actually. And my role within the team, of course, is talent attraction. When I talk about Wellington, I'm talking about the Wellington region, which basically, as you can see, covers a large part of the lower North Island. So when I am saying Wellington, I do mean the Wellington region. Quite often, I think some of the people who live further up, Kapiti Coast or Masterton, tend to get a little bit offended when we talk about Wellington, but we are talking about the region. So I wanted to talk to you about the talent unit. And when I say talent unit, I use that term very broadly because I am the talent unit at Grow Wellington. Basically, I am charged with promoting Wellington as a fantastic place to live and work, which I believe is very easy. As Grant said, I have lived quite a few places around the world, and when I was moving back to New Zealand, I was given the choice of Auckland, Wellington or Christchurch, and it was without hesitation that I chose Wellington, even though I'm a Marlborough girl. So basically, in terms of talent attraction, promoting the region as a great place to live and work, I also support local employers and recruiters in their international talent attraction strategies and activities. And I think that that's a really big part of my role because I can't just charge off around the world or to jobs expos and say, hey, come live in Wellington. Great place to live and work. We've got film, more cafes and restaurants per capita than New York City, affordable housing, etc., if there's no jobs, live jobs there. So it's really important that we help our local employers, and whether that be private or public, in actual fact, in their international recruitment strategies. So education is a big part of what I do, and when I first started, I needed to get a bit of a handle on the current situation. Yes, we had research that had been done, great files and reports of research actually when I first started. I think the first 3 weeks I was sort of wading through and having sleepless nights trying to get through these huge reports. So I actually went out to local employers and did a bit of a survey to find out what they were doing about talent shortages. We have a number of people in many sectors who are sort of jumping up and down and saying, hey, we haven't got enough developers, or hey, we haven't got enough of this or that. And when I actually went out and said, well, great, what are you doing about it? You know, how are you going to change it? Nothing was really being done. And I think a lot of that was that people were unsure how to go about recruiting internationally, A, sourcing the talent, and B, then getting them in. So we are partnering a lot with Immigration New Zealand, who, as you may know, are very keen on breaking down the barriers to bringing skilled migrants into the region. So a lot of the work I do is education, whether that's running seminars on international recruitment or talent sourcing. I see that as a really important part of my role. The next thing is tools. Giving local or regional employers and recruiters the tools to be able to help attract talent in. I had a few stories actually from some recruiters that were saying, hey, yes, I've got this amazing candidate, but when I try to give them information about the region, I'm sending them to this website and then to this website for visas, and then I send them a list of removal companies, etc. And there was no sort of centralised place where all of that information was accessible. So we've done a bit of a revamp of the Wellington NZ website and tried to incorporate all of the information that somebody migrating or looking to migrate into the region can go to and access the information all in one place. But we've actually gone a little step further. Well, we are in the process of going one further step, and that is creating a hub, a resource hub, if you like, of tools for employers and recruiters that they can use to market Wellington to candidates offshore. So we're putting together what we call a talent attraction toolkit, and that'll be full of infographics, videos, photos, all in different formats that employers can use to promote the Wellington region. Now, I would have loved to have been able to show that to you today, but unfortunately it's not going to be done for another couple of months. It is my first foray into the public sector, and things do tend to move a little bit more slowly than in the private sector. Retention is the next thing. It's all very well going out and promoting Wellington as this great place to live and work. Everybody sources this amazing talent, amazing skilled people into the region. Not much point if we're not retaining them. So we need to do a little bit of work, I think, and have a look at ways that we can work on retention of people. And again, that's going to start off with the employer. I can't do it. We can work together and do it as a region, but I can't do it as an employee of Grow Wellington. It needs to come from the employer level. And workforce is the next thing. Unfortunately, with the baby boomers ageing, our ageing workforce, and increasing labour demands, by the time 2030 rolls around, we're going to be in a very candidate-tight market. Now, a lot of regions and a lot of companies have recognised this, and so the war for talent, and I do say war and I don't say it lightly, is very, very competitive. And as people become more mobile and are more open to moving around the world, and travel has become a lot easier, we are competing with some pretty amazing cities. None of them, of course, is as great as the Wellington region, but it is highly competitive out there. So we need to start doing a bit of work on our workforce. What we're doing with attracting talent into the region is very reactive. It's important, we need to do it, but we need to start being a little bit more proactive, looking at employers' training, internal training, looking at internships, graduate programs, etc. Bringing back sort of the old-fashioned apprenticeship type model, I think that has sort of gone by the wayside, unfortunately. So workforce is really important and something that we need to concentrate on quite a bit. So in terms of target markets, and I'm sorry, I'm keeping my eye on the time there. What time do I need to be finished? It's a lot to cover. I was told no more than 15 minutes. So perhaps someone better give me a wave. Thank you. Target markets, and this is purely for ease of conversion. Research has showed us that Australia, the United Kingdom and the Western United states is going to give us a better, we're going to have more likelihood of conversion. That's due to a number of factors. I think similar workplace culture is one of those, and also local employer appetite also. We do monitor secondary target markets, and we are sort of monitoring Eastern Europe, South America, Asia, obviously, and now, of course, with the announcement of the appointment of our new CEO, who is from South Africa, I'm thinking South Africa better become one of my secondary, or if not a primary, target market. So, Big Fish Wanted, this is one of the campaigns that we do use offshore. I just got some stats off Seek this morning. I just wanted to give you an indication of the amount of roles that are vacant, or the amount of vacancies that we do have in Wellington at the moment. ICT, Information Communication Technology, 572. Engineering and Construction, also up there at 201. Now, there are two of the sectors that we are concentrating on at the moment. One, ICT, we need to get talent in here in order to, well, for the businesses that we have got to A, operate and B, grow, but also if we don't have talent shortages, it's more likely that we're going to be able to attract ICT businesses into the region, which is obviously very important for economic growth. So across all sectors, 2,422 vacancies this morning, and that's on Seek alone. Now, our wonderful economist has put together this great stat here for me, just to show you, although Auckland has many more vacancies than that, it was over 2,000, I think, or over 3,000 when I looked this morning, per capita, or according to population, Wellington vacancies are actually sitting pretty high. Auckland tends to be a bit of a default destination for people moving into New Zealand. So in many ways, we've sort of got a second city scenario going on when it comes to Wellington. So when we're offshore and promoting Wellington as a great place to live and work, we find that first of all, we have to tell the New Zealand story, but then we have to tell the Wellington story. A lot of the people that we are trying to attract into the region are repatriating New Zealanders, and many of them have been overseas for quite some time. I think Wellington has changed a lot in the past 20 years, and I think that we need to educate these people moving back into the region how wonderful and how far Wellington has come. I hope you don't mind me saying, but sort of 20 years ago we were sort of known as a boring old government town, a bit pale, a bit stale, a bit grey. I think a lot of the changes to the region have come about because of the film industry, but we need to tell that story to the New Zealanders moving back, so that they're not just moving to Auckland. There are obviously many positives to moving to the region, Auckland house prices being one of them. So in Wellington, of course, we have our annual earnings are higher than New Zealand's mean, and our median house price is lower than the national median, and that works really well when we're promoting the region when we're offshore. Makes it very attractive to move to New Zealand. So don't, as I say when I'm doing presentations offshore in market, don't just take my word for it. Vogue did call us the coolest little city in the world, and that was just last year. Now, there's so much more that I could stand here and talk to you about, but best not. If any of you yourselves are employers or recruiters who are struggling to source talent, then please feel free to contact me. We can catch up, meet and have a talk about some of the ways that I can support you. And maybe in a couple of months, when I've actually got my talent attraction toolkit, my resource hub all together, perhaps I can come back and tell you a little bit about that and show you. So thanks very much. Well, Russ, I'm very pleased to advise you that I actually sit next to the education manager, whose job it is to attract not only students into the region, but also tertiary and education providers. So certainly I do see that, of course, we need to attract students in, B, retain them. The graduate programs that I brought up vaguely before will go a long way towards that. Internships and graduate programs are likely to help retain students in the region. So we do put a lot of emphasis on student attraction. And in terms of solving our talent issues, not quite that easy, because a lot of the employers are needing someone past graduate stage with a little bit more experience. Again, long term, those internships, grad programs, internal training will help address some of those problems, but as a short-term solution, probably not. A broader strategy is being worked on. I hesitate to comment too much because it's not my area of expertise or specialty, so I'm not quite up to speed on that. Certainly though, maybe we need to arrange for the education manager to come in and do a similar presentation, answer some of these questions. Simple answer, tangent. Certainly that isn't a, it's not been concentrated on in our regional talent strategy at this point in time. If I was a larger talent unit, i.e. more of me as opposed to larger size-wise, there'd be a lot more initiatives that we could do, and there are so many things. At work I actually have most people have a to-do list. I have a wish I could do list if I had the time and resources. You know, budget constraints, resource constraints. You know, you've got to choose, I guess, where you get the most bang for your buck and just concentrate on what you can do. I think up until now, and again, education isn't my area, but seeing as I do sit next to the education manager, I do overhear quite a bit of what goes on. I believe that at present, it's up to each of the individual tertiary institutions and following up with their alumni, but I believe that there are plans afoot to try and, well, to look into having a Wellington regional sort of alumni